Welcome back to the Two Comma Club podcast. Today I'm joined by Michael Fomkin. I'm really excited about this episode. He is in the relationship space helping actors and models get situated in Hollywood, making sure they get the right connections and things of that nature. So, Michael, what do you think is the number one thing when it comes to getting the right connections in Hollywood that people kind of miss?
First of all, thank you so much for having you on the show today. It's so exciting to be here. Um, doing this for over 18 years, I think the most important thing for people to be connected, whether it's in Hollywood, TV, fashion, or really any industry, is people really need to know who you are. What is the value you're bringing to them? So many times, people, especially in Hollywood, they want to get discovered, and they're always, raising their hand, pick me, and that's really not will never get you where you want to be. You have to be able to enter the room where people already know your name and there's an expectation of the value that you're bringing to them. That's how you start opening up doors at a much very higher level.
I love that answer. Thank you so much again for your time, too. Um, so, when it comes to being able to get your name known in those rooms, how do you go about suggesting doing that?
Well, first of all, obviously you need to know what your worth is, right? What is the value that you bring? Say you're an actor. Who have you trained with? What type of training have you done? Are you working involved in community theater? Are you putting out there, the accolades that you're doing on your social media? Like if somebody was to Google you or go through your social media, would they see a professional actor, a professional model, or would they see somebody who's an amateur, who's trying, who's just randomly posting pictures to post pictures and really has no direction, they have no roadmap, and so forth. When somebody really wants to do something, whether they're an entrepreneur, a model, an actor, you have to go out and knock on doors. You have to build the accolades. You have to get into the right rooms. If you have absolutely nothing to work with, you find something to work with, right? It's not about lacking resources. It's about being resourceful. You start community theater. You start volunteering. It doesn't matter even if you're an usher at a community theater. You're in the room. You're seeing what other people are doing. You're being there at the rehearsals and so forth. Working even with somebody like Russell Brunson. Who's just at Funnel Hacking Live. Being there early, being in the right room, meeting people, saying, "Hey, how can I help you? What can I do for you?" And just that's where you start. You just start with what value do I bring, and if you feel you have no value, that's your mindset, right? That means you need to start working on your mindset and start saying, hey, you ask a better question, you're getting a better answer. What is something I'm really good at that I could bring value to somebody else in my life? I always like to tell people when you meet somebody who's a billionaire or a millionaire, people, what's the first question you should ask them? And what I always suggest is you ask them, what are you most excited about right now? Get them talking about themselves. Get them to share something they're excited about, and then you start as they're giving that answer, hey, how could I help them with that? What could I bring to the table to help them? And say, hey, great, I could do this. I'm a great funnel builder. I'm a great actor. I could do ads for you. I could, help create a VSL for you, whatever it may be, but it's something that you feel you can bring value. How could I get a hold of you to make that happen?
I love that. That's a great answer. I noticed that a lot of people in this space that tend to be individuals that have been around for a while, they lead with that kind of mentality where it's like, how can I help or add value to what you have going on? So, what have been some of your experiences that you've seen where people have gone in with that mentality and how it's changed maybe even in your life or one of your students?
With the entertainment industry, we have what's called we train people not only to be able to have the right contacts. We get people in the right rooms with the right people where they can just snap their fingers and change their life in 30 seconds or less. We also do production assistant training. So production assistant training is where you get to work behind the scenes. So you're helping with the cameras, the setup, the breakdown, and so forth. So I've seen a lot of people go through that training and program to leverage themselves getting on set. One of our when we first launched the program in beta, being behind, the woman completed the certification program. From there, she got herself on a couple of sets in a local market, actually out in Las Vegas. And then from there, she made friends with the casting director. She was, showing up on time. She was helping cleaning up. She was whatever was needed. There was no questions asked. She saw the director needed water. Water was waiting, and so forth. being there on set and being the person who they knew your name, they remembered her, they knew she was aspiring to be in this industry, that led to an opportunity that would eventually land her an NFL Super Bowl commercial. It would land her a ad, a billboard in Times Square for AT&T, and a national Starbucks commercial, all because she was
Wow.
in the right room with the right people. She was actually was a retired church secretary. She was 61 years old, and she was making $35,000 a year at that point in her life when she came into our organization and became one of our students. She now earns on average $35,000 a day, and her biggest ad was for the Super Bowl ad was $100,000. So she actually earned $100,000 in one day. She used to only own, and she never did this before. She went from $35,000 a year to $100,000 in a day. Never doing this before, because even though she didn't have experience, she went through the training and she was going through all that. But just like any other training, it takes time and dedication. But getting herself just in the room and just bringing value, something as simple as bringing water, having that smile, being on time, being professional, that led to people knowing her name, the right people knowing her name, right? The wrong people knowing your name. It's having the right people. I tell people all the time, if you're taking classes or you're investing money into this business, if the people you're working with are not getting you on set and not getting you bookings and jobs, you're working with the wrong person. And that happens all the time in this industry. There's just such a red ocean out there of, like, failed actors, and somebody was an assistant casting director 10 years ago. Now all of a sudden they're training people how to, like, audition. There's no such thing as training for audition. Like, when you think about this, there's like 1,000 projects going on with 1,000 casting directors. There's no set standard. Each one of them is has their own standard of what they're looking for. And the first step is they turn to people they know. Right? Think about it. You want to get a job done, you're going to turn to somebody you know. And if somebody you know, an agency or one of your agent friends doesn't have somebody, then you're going to go to the next step. Who's like the most qualified person that I may personally know? And then finally, if you still can't find somebody from a pool, then you'll start the audition process. So many times people are auditioning, they're showing up with 500, 1,000 people. Probably most likely the person who's going to get hired is somebody the casting director already knows their name. It's like when you're going that long route process of trying to win a lottery ticket. And I don't know about you, but winning a lottery ticket is pretty hard. There's the nice belief there. I'm gonna go get my numbers.
Right.
You get excited, you put your dollar down, and you're watching those numbers. And right up until the moment you don't win, you really believe you could win. But you can do that over and over again, a million times, 10 million times. You're not gonna win. Like, it just doesn't make sense from an odds standpoint when going out, investing in a business, investing in your career, being in the right rooms, having the people who know your name. That's how you get ahead with this.
Definitely. I couldn't agree any more on that. It kind of makes me think of one of the life lessons that I learned coming out of college, going for my first job, was basically the idea that, like, they say your network is your net worth, but to give it a simple application, it's like if you go and have coffee with somebody who works at, like, the bank that I wanted to go work at, for example, that gave me the ability to then get a referral to get the job and things of that nature, rather than just trying to be one of 1,000 applications in the
Mhm.
process. And I think, if I'm understanding correctly, that's a similar concept as to how it works in your world.
100%. And it's also having a magnetic personality. It's being able to walk into the room with confidence, right? Being able to, being prepared, right? It's being on time, being prepared, and being able to bring great ideas, right? Like, if you're given a script to understand, or you're a model and you're going to be working for, walking or working with a designer or a client, whether it's a consumer product, whatever it may be, before you even show up for that shoot, that audition, you should know everything there is to know about that designer, their clothing, their brand, where they went to school, how they got into the business, like whatever it is you could know. Like, I tell people all the time with casting directors, when get to know casting director, follow them on Instagram. Like, be a little bit of a stalker, right? Follow them on Instagram. Go on IMDb, see, which is the Internet Movie Database, great resource. Like, see what other productions they've worked on. Follow their trail. And so many times I'll learn something about somebody. I'll see, they were on, they went to Disney with their kids last week, or they were involved in a certain charity. I had the opportunity, the very first time I met Sigourney Weaver. Um, everyone, we had won a Tony Award for one of my productions I invested in on Broadway, and we were having dinner with Sigourney Weaver, and I had never met her before, and it was kind of like, it was right after the Tonys. We were having this after party, and there were like a few people there. They were kind of excited to meet her, and of course they're going up to her and they're talking to her about Avatar. They're talking to her about like the Alien movie, right? She's known from the Alien movie. She's had this a long, illustrious career, but people always associate her with the Alien movie. The movie was in 1977. Like that's like a character she played. But when I had known from her, I known that she was involved in charities. One charity that was her charity was to help underprivileged children be able to attend Broadway shows. So the moment I went up to her, the first thing I said, "Hey, congratulations on tonight. It was such an honor to be able to have the chance to work with you as an investor in the show. But I just wanted to let you know what really impacted me about you, Sigourney, was the charity work that you do for kids. That really meant so much to me." She literally went from kind of being a little standoffish to this big smile on her face. She took my hand, and next thing you know, the next 2.5 hours, we're talking about life, the show, and so forth, because I spoken to her. Listen. So, if somebody's listening to this and you're brand new to the industry, there's no excuse not to be able to go in and command the room. Having the confidence, being there on time, doing the research, right? Confidence is about practice. It's about research. The more information you have, the more knowledge you have, the more confident you're going to be. So there's so many things you can do beyond, like, think about this. How many great actors are there that have won Academy Awards, but they're not the best actor in the world? Like they got talent, but they're not the most talented person in the world, but yet they're running circles around somebody with the most amazing talent. Right? How many singers are out there that are just, sing to be unbelievable, but no one's never heard them because they've never left the nest. They've never went out there and got into the right rooms. Like, it's a tragedy for people who do have talent, to have so much talent, but because they're not in front of the right people, they don't have the confidence, that no one's showing them like a little bit of a framework of how to just get in front of the right people all the time. That's what we do. That's what we bring to the table. Been doing it for 18 years, but it always frustrates me when I meet somebody, who's brand new and they're living in fear, they're living in doubt and so forth. And honestly, we just tell them we really can't help them, right? Until there's not a lot I can do. And it kind of breaks my heart sometimes, but at the end of the day, I can only help the people who are swimming towards us, the people who raise their hand and say, "Hey, I really want to do this." And whether it's an entrepreneur, model, actor, it's all the same thing. I'm sure obviously you interview so many amazing people, their client base and the people they help, they can only serve the people who want the help. The people who are swimming away, there's not much. They're floundering in the water. I can't save the world. And that was a big, big breakthrough for me, because Billy, I was a guy who would jump in the water to try and save you. Now I can only save the people who swim towards us.
Yeah, I couldn't agree any more with that. I don't remember who it was that said this, but in one of the previous episodes that we did, somebody mentioned the analogy of, I believe it's the National Guard or whoever it
Hmm.
is that when they're trying to save people when a boat crashes, they're trained to save the people that swim toward them first. Because everyone else is like, if you lead a horse to water, you can only lead it to water. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to drink it. So,
Hmm.
I find that individuals in this space, like yourself who are in relationships, myself who are in relationships, like one of the big hurdles that we all come across is that idea that you just mentioned where like we want to help everyone, right? But it's really difficult to get to that point. So I find it interesting that some of our biggest points in our entrepreneurial journey that we see adversity is those moments when we do want to help those people. But then we have to let go. So I don't know if you're willing to get a little personal with me and share any of those harder moments in relationships where you've had instances where they've made you grow as a result of things that have happened, either good or bad. If you want to save time on watching all the episodes, but still get all the gold nuggets that we find from interviewing these 7, 8, and 9 figure entrepreneurs, then you can get all of that inside of the 2 Comma Club newsletter. Just go to 2ccnewsletter.com and subscribe.
That's a great question. Um, we when we first started, we used to have this saying. We used to call it the curse of the guest speaker page. And it was such an interesting thing. So when we first started, we host events where people go through an interview process and they get to come to New York, LA, Atlanta, Orlando, and they sit down with like 35 of the most powerful people in the entertainment industry. People who can snap their fingers and change their life in 30 seconds or less, right? That's our value add. But when we first started, we met some incredible speakers, but they weren't like the vice president of Warner Brothers. They might have been like the head of casting or something. And what we noticed is if we put them up on the speaker page, they literally their heads blew up because for the first time somebody was like putting them up on this like page, and their significance just went through the roof. So now all of a sudden, they would come to the event like all like just too much to handle. So I don't know if that's like a bad story or not, but I learned that how you position people is affects like the type of person you work with, who you surround yourself with, and how you position them has like an effect on not only them but how they affect you. And I've seen another great story with this too is we work with a lot of agents, and a lot of times what I noticed with some, and I'm talking some big agents, like I'm talking agents who represent major people on television, like people like major shows that you would, I can say names, but you would know them if I drop their names. And what I noticed with the agents is they have that same issue where they'll have somebody who kind of, is doing a lot of TV film. They're, somewhat moving up the ladder, but they get that one breakout role where all of a sudden now magazines want to interview them. Um, you know, uh, television shows, and their personality gets out of hand very quickly. They start demanding that. I saw a YouTube video. It was with he was like the Secretary of Defense, or he was a military person. I don't know if you saw this video, but he tells this story that when he had this position, he was speaking at an event, and they flew him there first class. They had a limo waiting for him. He was staying at a five-star hotel. They had somebody pick him up and drive him to the event. And when he arrived at the event, they had this nice cup of coffee in a porcelain, cup waiting for him. And then the following year, he was no longer in that position, but he still was invited to speak at the event. They flew him there instead of first class. He flew coach. Then he, had to get an Uber to get to the hotel. And then when he showed up in the morning to speak, he had asked, is there any coffee? They pointed him over to where the coffee was, and he had to go get his own cup of coffee in a paper little cup. And his story was, he says that the porcelain cup wasn't ever meant for him. It was meant for the position of who he was. And I thought it was such an interesting story because it related to so many times where somebody, you get this notoriety, you get this taste of fame, and all of a sudden if you don't stay humble, that it goes away. It's like it's not that they're really interested in you. They're interested in the magic of who you are as that character, who you are because of on that cover of the magazine. Like they're talking to you about your life and your story, but in reality, like a week later, a month later, a year later, that fame will fade. Like you have to consistently adapt to the industry. If you're not consistently changing and adapting, with AI, the types of shows that people are interested in, the demographics of age, how people change, what people were interested in watching 10 years ago is going to be a lot different than what people are interested in now. You see the consistent involvement of the industry. So people have to realize that. And I've seen so many people make these mistakes, and it's interesting because I'm, as a producer and investor, I have financial gain from seeing people be successful, but I'm getting this bird's eye view of seeing how that affects people. And even I myself, when I first got into business, it's fun to go to an event. We do virtual calls and boot camps and challenges, and we talk to thousands and thousands of people every year, and then we'll do a live event. And all of a sudden, you show up at this event, and like people are coming up to you wanting to take your photo, and they like know so much about you, like they read your book, and it feels good, right? It's kind of creepy, but it kind of feels good too. But
Yeah.
I learned very quickly not to allow that to lead into my significance, to know that it's like my moral obligation to help serve people, to give them the best that I can, to over deliver, to bring more value. And I always try to be humble in it, but there is always sometimes I feel like maybe I should step more into that, right? Maybe would it help the business, when you become that avatar, you become, that recognized figure, a Tony Robbins, a Russell Brunson, so forth, an Alex Hormozy, where you're leaning into that character? Does that allow you to reach more people? Or and how do you control not becoming overly inflated in your head? So, I kind of turn it on, turn it off. So when I'm on camera, I could be one way, but then myself, I'm like really like, when I'm working at home or in my personal life, very introverted. I don't know if that answers your question, but we
Definitely.
got some good sound bites there.
Oh yeah, a lot of gold nuggets there. I love that. That concept of I would consider it like pride, right? Everyone when they get that one big win and that one little taste of fame, as you mentioned, it really changes the way that they might receive different circumstances. And so, what have been kind of the biggest things that you've seen as I guess ways that people have managed to stay humble, or like, is there any industry thing that actually talks about that, or resources or people that talk about how it looks to get that big hit and then all of a sudden have to, stay humble, a process for that,
Um,
if you will.
there's not so much in the entertainment industry. But I'll tell you something, there's a lot of it in the sports industry. We work with like a lot of people in the sports industry, like Patrick Mahomes and some really cool players. And what I noticed is that their agents and managers, as they were kind of when they got their contracts with the NFL, um, they got them involved very rapidly involved in a charity, but not just lending their name, actually going in and doing the work. And it serves a couple of purposes. It serves where it gets them grounded, so they're grounded now, so that being that NFL star doesn't go to your head, right? We're adoring fans, but it also keeps them where they're focused on something. So when temptation or trouble comes along and you don't want to wind up on the front page of CNN because you were caught in a hotel with somebody other than your wife or whatever little trouble you could get yourself into, he always reminded them to be grounded in that their impact and their success is designed to help others. Like one of the things we're currently working on, we used to work a lot with the Operation Underground Railroad, cooperation with ClickFunnels and Tony Robbins. We've helped free over 1,000 kids through raising money for that. We had the opportunity to showcase their films and private showings throughout the country. So we've done a lot of great stuff with that. 2025, we're working on between 2025 and 2026 to raise $1 million to build schools in Kenya. So it's something that like really fired me up because now it's like I so am focused on like I'm working on a new presentation today. And normally, when you're doing a new presentation, they take, for me at least, it takes me about 2 or 3 weeks to really dial in a presentation. And usually I kind of get sidetracked. I start, you know, going off, off the rails to get something. A squirrel runs by and I'm chasing after the squirrel. But because of the fact that I see myself doing this with these schools and it means something to me, it keeps me focused. In the entertainment industry, you don't really see that a lot. Like I think there are a lot of people who get involved with charities, but there are people who get involved with charities just because they want the publicity for it. A lot of times, the way it works with this business, unfortunately, is say say I'm like an A-lister star, my value for doing like an interview might be, $100,000 to do an interview, right? They're compensated for things, or if I'm promoting a product, I'm wearing a hat, right? They're not only do they get the gifts for free, but they're also going to be compensated to wear that. So there's this expectation of certain people, and again, I won't name names, but even for something with a charity, the way and I hate I don't want to put down charities at all, but I just want so you to understand how this works is a celebrity will say, "Hey, I'll make an appearance, but I'll waive my $100,000 fee." So they use it as like a tax deduction, which is it's cool to be able to do it, but a lot of them they're not doing this from the heart. They're doing it because it's a tax deduction or there's something in it for them. It makes them look good. They're the face doing it. So you can kind of tell like, so when you see like a celebrity that, you know what, this person's kind of cool, but like, I don't know if I'd want to have a beer with them or have coffee with them. that usually tells you a lot about who their personality is, because it's almost, you can see and feel it in them. While there are others that are involved in charities, you wouldn't even know they're involved in a charity. Like they don't even, they'll talk about it every once in a while, but it's not something they push at the forefront. They're doing it from the love of really giving back, and from just having faith, and they're driven. Um and I think those are the ones I gravitate towards, right? Like those are the types of people I want in my life versus not. And like, we've worked with a lot of A-list celebrities and a lot of, different projects and films and all kinds of things. And the ones that you see that have longevity, they have a great heart, great personality, and so forth. And I really, it's such an interesting topic, because there's really the fashion TV industry does not, there's no training for that. This might be a good program, actually. Got my little wheel spinning. In the sports industry, the agents will focus these players on something. But I guess players too have a shorter career than, TV and film. You can have a 20, 30, 40, 50 year career. Models also a very short career too. Model, like, for a lot of times, model, there's a wide range of models. Like the biggest segment for modeling is actually models over 50. Is actually, a lot of times people always think models are
Interesting.
young. Yeah, but think about, like all those Starbucks ads, the clothing, Macy's, all those consumer products. It's actually an older demographic. That's called commercial print. It's actually the largest segment of the industry. Models like under 25, it's there's not as much work, a lot more competition than over 25. And actually between 50 and 60 is like the biggest segment for the most work now, because of an aging population.
Wow, that's really interesting. Such a random tidbit there. I love that. But I think you had an amazing concept there about being grounded, talking about the charities and getting involved in those respects. And I totally understand what you're saying. Like from afar, just hearing about some of these things in the news and whatever about how such and such got involved in this charity, donated this amount of money. It's like, okay, there could be tax write-offs. It might be disingenuous, but then I think just hearing that idea of the football players and everything, it's like when they donate the time, that becomes like kind of a different vibe because it's like that actually comes with, in my opinion, some kind of cost and shows a little bit more genuine nature. So that's a really interesting concept to think about. So for anybody who's listening and is either in the process of making it big or about to make it big, consider getting involved in a charity in some capacity beyond just financial donations. That's really cool.
Yeah, get
Um,
out there, get your hands dirty, like, you know what I mean? Even start a soup kitchen. We tell, when we do events in like LA and New York, Atlanta. We have like our inner circle. Those are like our highest level of talent we work with. We'll take a day and we'll go work at the soup kitchen. We'll go feed the homeless. Like, whatever is available, because it's just not about celebrating you. You have such, I tell them all the time, to have such gratitude for you being able to do this, that you got on a plane, you're staying at a five-star hotel, you're going to this, you're doing all these things based upon your talent, right? Like, you're showing up, you're an actor, you're a model. But there are people 2 miles away from this venue that they may not have food tonight on their table for their kids. So we don't just say we're going to write a check out. We actually go and do something about it. And even, I think, of course, I want to change the world. You want to feed 1 billion people, but to me, we, over the past few years, we've helped feed 10,000 people. Now, not maybe 1 million, but it's still, even if it was 10 or
Very
100,
significant.
it's still something, right? It's still something, and just every little bit helps. Every little bit helps. So even if you're listening to this, go online, Google, find a local charity, find something you can do. Where can I volunteer? Even volunteering at a hospital, spending time. There are people, so many people in a hospital, they may not have family or friends, or an old age home, right? A lot of times they may not have family and friends, and you go there and you bring some joy, you bring some warmth, you're telling jokes. Let me tell you something. We work with a lot of older people. Boy, they can tell you some really good dirty jokes. They know some really good dirty jokes. So it's just something like that. Just it makes you feel good, right? It just, and when you feel good and you've done something good, it helps your cells, it helps your mind, it just brings, it takes you out of depression. There's so many benefits to it. Plus, you got to do something wonderful to somebody else with no ask in return, just total value.
I love that. That's amazing. So let's go ahead and shift gears here and head toward the internet marketing side of things. So in terms of your offers and services, if you wouldn't mind kind of like helping me break down a little bit of what your value ladder is, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, so our value ladder is we work with people who've reached a certain level of success in the entertainment industry, and now are stuck. And then we work with people who have gone and have been doing this for years. They may have been doing this for years, decades, 5, 10, 15, 20 years, and they're very successful, but they themselves feel they're not where they should have been at this point in their lives. So that's the two core groups that we work with. We don't work with beginners. So somebody who's like, I've never done this before. I just want to be famous. People tell me I'm good looking. That's not that's not who we. Unfortunately, they're great people, but we just can't help them. That's just not that's not who we serve. So for the people who come in, what we do is we have different options depending upon them. Everything we do is like by interview. So a person will see like an advertisement, or they may see a lead magnet. We use a lot of organic, so from podcasts to videos to um, events. A lot of live events. We'll go to live events, so we get a lot of great word of mouth and referrals from people. But a person will come into the organization, so depending upon where they are, we have monthly billing. So we have like live coaching that we do. So our live coaching is done with like Emmy award winning actors. They're done with people who have reached a very high level of success and are currently working in the industry. So that's kind of like one of our value adds, because there's a lot of coaching online in this industry, but it's usually from people who they've never really actually been successful. I'm just, it's kind of like internet gurus, right? There's a dime a dozen, but how many of them actually, can show the results consistently over and over again, not just one or two, made up testimonials. So same thing for us. We have monthly billing, and then what we do is we do live events. So the live events are done depending upon time of year. They can be anywhere from Miami, Orlando, Las Vegas, Atlanta, Los Angeles, New York, Chicago, New Orleans. So we have live events, so people can come through a live event. So they can go through the month. So they go from ad to landing page to a live interview. So we do a webinar, seminar. We also have challenges once a month. From there, they will go to an interview. So they actually get on Zoom. We go through an interview process. They can't purchase directly. So, like if they wanted to have a ticket, they can't purchase a ticket. We have to see them, meet them, make sure that they're qualified. Once they come to an event, they have the opportunity. So ours is like kind of like piecemeal. So they can purchase a ticket to an event, but then we have things that may be beneficial to some, but not to all. So maybe somebody needs to update their reel. Maybe somebody needs updated headshots. Maybe somebody needs an updated portfolio. Maybe somebody wants to do improv training and so forth. So our events are kind of broken apart like throughout the day, where different people can apply different things, because there's certain things that's going to work across the board, like foundational stuff. But then there are certain things people a little bit more advanced. So like I'll have them sitting down with the head of casting for Stranger Things or for like a major television show, and she'll actually start auditioning and casting them right there live, like helping them tweak out their reel, helping them tweak out their monologue, and so forth, like in real time. And we film the whole process for them. So that's always cool. But then we have like secret lunches and secret dinners and a whole bunch of stuff going on. So our next step up is when somebody goes through the first interview process and they make it to an event, we have what's called our inner circle. So our inner circle is like you couldn't join it. Our inner circle is $30,000 for the year. They couldn't join the inner circle without coming to an event where we actually have to meet them. When we first started, of course, people. When I first started our inner circle a few years, probably about 8 years ago, 9 years ago now, um, we weren't as selective. And I don't know if you're not familiar with it. Being an inner circle means you're working very closely with somebody. So that means you're dedicating your time to this person to help them reach a higher level of success even faster than without your help. So my one of my business partners, his name's Bill Walsh. He owns Power Team International. He always likes to say, "Be careful of blood sucking vampires. They will just suck the life out of you." And
Yeah.
and it really comes down to, even Russell says this. Um, you want to be around with people who like you want to really work with, people you can throw the ball with back and forth. Once they come to an event, then they can apply to be an inner circle, and then from there, the inner circle will get like a lot more personal time with myself, my team. We'll do private dinners, like we usually like like we have an event coming up in Miami. We'll rent like a big mansion on the water. We'll have like the head of casting of Versace is going to be there. I have like the direct contact who does all the sports castings in Miami. So he handles like Nike, Reebok, like all the sports and fitness clothing companies. So he's like the direct in, like he's the guy who makes the decisions on the campaigns. So we'll have him there, and then our inner circle will get like a catered dinner. We may take them out, like if we're in New York, we'll take them to like see Phantom of the Opera, but then afterwards we'll go backstage, we'll hang out with the Phantom and the cast. So we'll literally be in his dressing room wearing the mask. We rent speedboats in Miami. Like we do cool stuff. And then like even for Inner Circle, they'll have the opportunity to come out to Kenya and actually help build these schools and do all these really amazing things. And we have
That's so
private calls
cool.
for them. They just recently got to work with the he is the original writer for Saturday Night Live. So his name is Alan Zweibel, and he's helped create tons of triple A lister, comedians and stars from the show. But he's the original writer, worked directly with Michael Lauren. So a lot of the characters, Gilda Radner characters, the Dan Aykroyd characters, the John Belushi characters, they all came from his mind. So it was an amazing opportunity for them to sit down with that, especially for those that were interested in screenwriting and comedy and so forth. We're doing a big event in Las Vegas, I believe in July, where they're actually going to get to perform on stage live. They're getting trained by a comedian who toured the world with Artie Lang from the Howard Stern show. So he's like opened up for Artie Lang. So they're actually training with him on stage presence. And then they're actually going to get to perform live on Las Vegas on the Strip at a comedy club, all being
That's wild.
filmed. Yeah, like cool stuff like that. Like we try to like we're not no boring to sit in a classroom and learn how to do improv. We put you up on stage. Like you're performing in front of a live audience in Las Vegas. You're going backstage with the Phantom of the Opera. You're backstage at Fashion Week. So we do really cool things. So as you can imagine, like people really want to be in that inner circle, which is cool, but at the same time, I'm spending a lot of time with them. So we cap it off. I think it's around 50 people per year that we cap off. And as long as somebody renews, then they hold their seat. If they don't, that's how somebody like will open up a new seat. And usually people will never leave us. The only time that we've ever had people leave us is because they're literally working full time and they just don't have the time to dedicate. Like they're literally, full-time working actor now, full-time working model, which is great. So we're really proud of all that. So that's kind of like our value ladder that we have.
That's awesome. That's really cool. You guys, it sounds like you go above and beyond with all the different steps that you do and how you help and add value to people. So that's fantastic. And you touched on part of my next question, which was, what are you guys doing to get discovered out there? And I think you mentioned a little bit about doing videos, online challenges, things of that nature. But what are kind of the number one tips that you guys have for getting discovered online?
So from like for lead generation or for people just to get this for lead generation? Yeah,
Yep.
right. Okay. So for lead generation, what we found works is um, you can hire the best media buyer in the world. You can have automations from now until 100 years from now. We've done it all. Like I'm certified in ClickFunnels, Go High Level, Infusionsoft, Keep. Like I'm the king of automations. And we've worked with so many different media buyers. Obviously, we're in the entertainment industry, so we know how to write great content. What I find is the algorithms and lead generation online is always changing, and you have to be aware of that. Like it's up to you. Like there's nobody you could ever hire. You have to understand how what you need to really be dialed into your avatar, understand their pain points, understand what moves them, and not over teach in ads or over teach. Like you have to come up with what is so if somebody's gonna scroll past your ad, what is it the result that they're going to get, or what is the pain point that you can help them overcome. So for us, it's like it's really dialed in. It's like, hey, you've probably been doing this for a while. You've had some success, but you're probably maybe not really exactly where you want to be. Maybe perhaps you're just not happy with your agent. Maybe you're not booking as much as you are, or perhaps you're going on a ton of auditions, but it seems like people with a lot less talent are booking and you're not. That speaks directly into the listen of the person that I'm doing. And I've worked with so many entrepreneurs, and I was one of them. Like, if you talked to me 10, 15 years ago, I would have been like, I want to help everybody, right? Like, who can I help? Everybody, right? Everyone could be a model, everyone could be an actor, right? Everyone needs my help, but it's so true. Like, you can create we've done over $32 million in business online, all from just dialing into that 1% of the market, right? It's like, it's literally such a small segment, and it's such a pleasure when you dial in your avatar and you're very specific. You just talk to their listen, you solve that one problem. So for us, it's just really in the creatives, running the ads, and how we pre-frame things. So like, your messaging has to match. Like, the message in your ad is step one. Step two is now the landing page. Does your landing page messaging match your ad? Right? And then from there, after you're doing a webinar, you're doing a challenge, is the promises you're keeping on, that you're sending them via email or text message or confirming, are they matching what the challenge is actually going to be? Are you actually going to give them the type of results they're looking for? Or at least some type of result, right? A win that they can get, so they feel, hey, I want to be engaged with your service. People have choices. People have options, right? You can go. People now can go into AI, and there's like literally there's I challenge anyone to really go in and type in any problem you may have and ask your chat GPT, how would you solve this? And it's going to give you all these answers, right? So if you think about it, like, every guru who's listening to this, you're kind of almost out of business, right? Right? And if not, you could be. But here's the thing: AI can give you the answers. You, as a guru, as an internet marketing, you can give them wisdom, and that's where the value is now going to be go forward. It's in having the wisdom, the experience. Hey, yes, these are the steps you need to take, but I can help you get there faster. There's little tweaks along the way. It's like flying a plane. Chat GPT can teach me how to fly a plane, but boy, oh boy, when I get in that plane, it starts drifting or something goes wrong. I want an experienced pilot sitting next to me who can feel the motion of the engine, who understands, every single nuance of that plane. You're not going to get that, right? Information alone is not enough. You actually still need that human connection, to really, and especially for my business, there's of course all the talk about AI replacing actors and models and so forth. But at the end of the day, that it's gonna be close. Like, it's you're going. There's no need to have extras. There's going to be no need for a lot of certain products to not need models consistently. Like, you can catalog work and stuff like that can be easily, if you have a photorealistic model that just looks just as good, and you can't tell the difference between, now you could kind of tell the difference, but it's getting better and better every day. And just, the processing power, there's still an expense there, but there's still like a need for human touch, human emotion, live shows, plays, things like that. Even commercials. You'll never be able to replace creating characters, right? AI is really good at coming up with storylines and hooks and ideas, but it's not. It's still decades away from being able to have the power to be creative the way a human actually would be, or to be able to be in a situation where I can make those fine tune adjustments while on set. Will this transform the industry? Absolutely. So, like, whether, I guess to get back to the question is, at the end of the day, it's creativity, right? You have proven results, you get the people the results you want. You have to state that in your ads. I see so many times, like, I see so many ads from people, and I see companies come and go all the time. They like jump around, or they're trying to get people overly excited to click the link. Like, they're so focused on clicking the link and getting them to the next thing. Like, right now, if you really follow high end marketing, long ads is where it's at. Like, all of our ads we shoot are 4 minutes above. Like, if somebody's not willing to watch my ad for 4 minutes, they're not really going to be a qualified lead. I want somebody who's scrolling. I grab their attention. They watch a full 4 minute video. They click the link. They go to my landing page. Before they fill out the application form, there's another 4 minute video that they're watching. They fill out now the application, right? With my application, simple name, email, phone number. But then on the thank you page, there's a 4 minute video that walks them through the process of like a webinar or a challenge. So this actually increases show rates. I learned this actually from, I was spending time with Tony Robbins, media buyer, and we were talking about like what's working, what's not. So like what for marketing, sometimes you got to follow like the big guns. Like what are the big guns doing? Follow what they're doing, see what works for you, and don't so much copy them, right? Like so, I'm giving you a on fire tip right now. Longer ads, 4 minutes work, but it doesn't mean copy my ads or copy Tony's ads. What is the 4 minute value that you bring to somebody? Why they would want to take that next step? How do you pre-frame them? That's not teaching, but pre-framing them so that they're interested enough to raise their hand to click that link. And they click that link as they're going through the process. What would they be thinking next? Oh, I just clicked the link. Is this really going to help me? But right, because they're always going to lean back into, people don't say, oh my God, they rush in and here's your credit card. They always coming up, they lean, the average person who's not trained, conditioned their mind is going to be, well, this isn't probably going to help me. I've done this before, and all the excuses. So everything you have to lead up without training is like pre-framing them to get them the message to want to take step two. It's like an email. Subject line only has one job, to get you to open up the email. Oh, the first line has one job, to get you to read the second line, and so forth. And while it's doing its job, it also has to give the person the feel. There has to be an emotion, a connection there. You have to be relatable to the person, and you have to really have gone through it. Like, we've lived through the fire, so we can talk about these stories. We know people who, been through all the things. So, like, whether you're selling widgets or you're helping people blow up their leads or whatever it is, you have to be able to relate to that customer, that you understand their pain and speak into their listen. So when you do create ads like that and everything matches along the way, it's unlimited leads. Like, no one should ever say there's no more leads. There's so many. I tell people all the time, well, think about this. Every year, think of all the high schools that are filling up with freshmen, right, in their class. That means every year, right, there's more people. There's more leads. Like, population's changing. Maybe your demographics changing. Maybe your demographic grew a little bit older this year, right? We work with a range of people from 40 to 60. How I talk to a 40-year-old is a little bit different than a 60-year-old. I actually had somebody this morning. He's 70. First question was, "Well, I'm 70. I got all my hair. Can I still do this?" Right? Absolutely. Of course you can. When he was 70, he was worried, is he too old, right? So it's knowing how to speak into that person's listen, to know how what is, because what you think the problem is never what they're thinking, right? So we use a lot of AI. Like, what we do is we take interviews, we interview people, and we ask them like their pain points. We ask them like we'll do like little ask campaigns. Like, we have a school group, so we'll say like after the challenge, like we'll do like a weekend challenge. Hey, what were your biggest takeaways? Where were you before you got here? What changed over the weekend? And we'll take all those screenshots of like the before and after and verbiage, their own words, and we'll upload them to ChatGPT, and we'll say, hey, from a marketing standpoint, what data can you get out of this to help me create better messaging? And you'll be surprised how much information you can get that you think you knew it all, and then you'll be like, oh wow, I never thought about that, right? Because where you are on your journey as the coach, the leader, right, sometimes you forget where they were, right? Because like, you're growing too. Like, I'm always growing. When I first started, we used to just do Broadway shows. Now we do film and we do so much more. So who I was as a person is always changing. And and that's kind of like why we like working with that avatar that's kind of more elevated, but at the same time they're still not where we're at. Like, they're still not, I can pick up the phone and get anyone on the phone. They still aren't at that level where they could do that, but I have the wisdom, the connections, the time, the relationships, and so forth. So it's the same thing when you're doing ads and lead generation. It's really speaking into their listen, but giving them enough to raise their hand and making them feel confident in your product and so forth, versus like the whiz bang. Like, I can run an ad. Do you want become a model? Click here. I can get 10,000 leads a day, right? But that's because 10,000 people filled up my database. Doesn't mean that they're actually able to do it, have the affordability, the resources, are actually qualified. You'll get kids signing up for it, 13-year-olds without parents' permission, all kinds of silly things like that. So I hear people say all the time, well, I got a lot of bad leads. Everyone I spoke to was broke or this or that. Their wife won't let them do it, their husband. Yeah, it's your messaging. It's a messaging problem. And all it is, you're not speaking into to the right listen. And it's like when people say, well, how do I do that? Know who's your avatar. Tell me everything you know about them. What's their pain points? What drives them? And most likely, what you think is probably wrong because you're seeing it from your perspective, not their perspective. You have to go back and become the person you were before you learned what it is that you got to where you are.
Definitely. I really like that idea of the 4 minute ad there because it one of the
Phenomenal.
things that we notice today is like the attention span and how much shorter it's getting, and it really helps to dedicate and filter the right people who actually have this problem and resonate with it. So that's really cool. I like that. Thanks for that tidbit. When it comes to these leads that are coming into your ecosystem, what is it that you guys are doing to kind of nurture those relationships to get them to a point where they're actually ready to move forward with what you have going on?
So we have an indoctrination sequence. I actually just rewrote it. So we have a 7 day indoctrination sequence and a 30 day. Um, and pretty much we take them on like a journey. So it's kind of like a Seinfeld campaign. We're taking them on a journey. Um, about the avatar story, the company story, giving them some tips and so forth. But what we try to do is, as we're like leading, say we're leading up to a challenge, right? And the challenge may be, we have a challenge coming up in 4 weeks. So probably about a week or two, probably about 14 days before the challenge starts, we'll send out an email where we'll drive traffic to like an Instagram, and what we'll do is we'll have them like where they're following the Instagram, they're jumping on a live, and we start like not talking about the challenge, but talking about some of the problems we've been thinking about helping them solve. Right. So we like give you an example. We did a training on neuro linguistic programming, right? NLP. So now you would think like, what does NLP have to do with models or actors? Well, A, for one, models and actors have a bad mindset, so that would help them. But also understanding language when you go in a casting, how would that help you when speaking with the casting director, understanding the words he's using, understanding where he's coming from? Do you think that could make you a better actor, a better model, or land more auditions, right? Type of 101 if you believe so. Yeah, of course. Oh my God. Well, you know what? We're going to be hosting an event in a couple of weeks. So we're thinking about bringing like a master NLP trainer on. Who would love that? So like I'm doing stuff where I'm like pre-framing in advance things about the event, question like asking them would they like this, would they not? And it's the engagement. It's not so much it's the it's not the sale part. It's the engagement of them, they thinking about that, going, wow, I really would like to be a part of that. So then, like 4 days before the campaign, so they'll register 4 days before like in the reminder emails. I'll talk again about that NLP. I'll talk about those little things. So I'm like re-triggering something from their past to help them show up for the call. Does that make sense? So it's kind of like, it's like think about it's like a script, right? So
100%.
I have like a television show. All right, I can't reveal the entire show. I don't want to spoil the ending. How do I lead up to the show? Right. The greatest way to do this is to watch Netflix and watch like a series show where how do they you get to the end of the episode? Oh my God, I gotta watch the next episode. What's gonna happen next? Right? You just meant to watch Netflix. I was just gonna watch one show. All of a sudden it's 4 days later and you're still sitting in front of the TV because boom, 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 it hooked you in. So it's the same thing. It's using emotional stories are the best. Like emotional stories are the best for us. I found it for the best. We also work with entrepreneurs. We have a business we're partners with Brian Tracy. Same thing. We find emotional stories really work the best. Um, and just kind of like it's like a buildup, right? There's something coming that you need to be a part of, and so forth. So we use all of that, like so. We have automation set, but at the same time, we're using Instagram and Facebook and TikTok to kind of create like a reality show that's happening in real time. And a lot of times, what I find works the best is sometimes just talking about what's going on in our lives, right? My business partner, she has a little 4-year-old. So, whatever kind of trouble the 4-year-old might got into, some days she may have a good day, a bad day, and talking about that and sharing just the part of your life that keeps the story flowing for them so they could relate. like we had to do when we do like a big seminar. Hey, we have to plan out these things in Miami. Like, oh my God, so we just thought we found like the perfect Airbnb. It was going to be great. It was on the beach, and then all of a sudden we discovered that they don't allow like events there. Like, who has a 20 bedroom, Airbnb on the beach, and you're not allowed to have events? And we kind of tried to talk to the owner, and they were like, no, because I had a bad experience. And like, oh my God, so now it's last minute. We have to try and find, like the day of a life of planning an event. Or, sometimes they love like if somebody doesn't show up for a booking or something like that, stories like that. So it's a combination of storytelling through emails, videos, and lives, that causes engagement. The higher the engagement, we'll consistently see the people that are on there. And whenever they do something like they tag us or whatever, we always share. So we make sure to rapidly share their content in real time, so they see their content that we shared it. What I'll notice, because we track those people's names when we can figure out their names, what we'll notice is the people that are sharing our content, showing up to the lives, they now are opening up the emails, and when they actually show up on the events, they wind up becoming clients. So it's like literally, like I could literally 3 weeks before an event, just by going through my social media, by who's engaging. Oh, this person's pretty new, but they're engaging a lot. This probably person looks like they're going to be a client. I already see them sharing our stuff, and then I share their stuff back. So again, it's creating a connection. I'm using social media to like as if I was meeting you in real life and so forth. I'm not going back and forth and chatting them with them in the DMs. We don't do that. I don't really believe in that. I think it's a little bit creepy and weird, and people just are so overwhelmed with it, they ignore it. I think it wins by brute force for some people, but I think you have to build real relationships. You have to, what we teach them, we do actually what we teach our people. So when we teach people how to use social media the right way, we were actually using it in the same exact light, and so forth. So it's again, it's and creating creative messaging. Countdowns work really well. 4 more days, 3 more days, 2 more days. Combination of text messages, emails, the lives. Different markets respond differently. So there are some people who respond to email, but they won't respond to a text message. There are some people who will respond to a text message, but they're never like online. So each person, depending upon the age, demographics, time zones, will respond differently. So you really have to be kind of all purposeful on how you're contacting them, and so forth. There's no magic bullet to it. So it's just a matter. You have to have like a team. Like we have like a team of two VAs that help with a lot of this. So it's just a matter of getting it structured. And each business is going to be a little bit different. Like a little bit different in the messaging and so forth. But when you people want to be seen, that's like really like to sum this up for this part. People want to be seen. When people are seen and people are heard, they will show up. If you're just treating them as like, you know, click here to sign up for my, whatever, and then they're just getting those rando. You ever get those text messages that are just terrible? They're not even like a reminder. Like they're just like the webinar starting in 1 hour at 7 p.m. Here's the link. It's like I'm like you don't even care who I am. It's like I don't feel anything in that text. So even down to our text messages, I need them to feel the warmth, the invitation. They're being seen, they're being heard, and so forth. So.
I think you said it really well, using the term being relatable. I think that that really helps people be seen and be heard, and I think that was a gold nugget that you dropped there. So I just wanted to resurface that really quick. But as we're getting close to the end of the podcast here, one of the questions I like to ask at the end is, you know, we live in a day and age where we have the ability to record a moment in time for future generations to see via video. And so, what is one of the best pieces of advice that you've either received in your career or experienced in your own life that you could share for future generations to learn from?
I'd say the number one thing is time is your most valuable asset. That time is not a renewable resource. To make the most out of your time, money can be replenished. You can always get more money. You can always get another job. You'll always figure things out, right? You put the effort in, but you have to value your time like so much. Like I get up bright and early. I'm up at 5 a.m. We go for an hour walk. Then I hit. We go. I have a personal trainer now. We work with a personal trainer, and then I'll coordinate my time. So like in the morning, hey, I have my to-do list. I reach out to my team. This is what, expectations are today, whatever I'm working on. and then nice healthy lunch or healthy breakfast, then like a couple of hours to read, but then making sure that I go out, whatever I have planned to do for the day, planning something. Every week I like to go someplace different, do something new, go to a different library, do something to make the maximum amount of every single hour, right? Still go to bed at a decent time, but I wake up with energy and with life, and I never want to catch myself sitting on the couch going, what should I do next, right? Because I know like time just goes by so quickly, right? I've reached a point now where I realize like I'm like, whoa. So one of those little TikTok videos, you have like 32,000 days left. I'm like, oh my God, I got 32,000. That's crazy, right? And it's like you don't realize like, it's like people all the time. I tell people like people who live far away from their parents. Like I was lucky before my mom passed away. I spent as much time as I could with her. But think about people who only see their parents at Christmas time for 2 or 3 days or Thanksgiving. Well, that's like 5 days. If your parents are in their 70s and they have 10 years to live, times that 3 days by 10, that's 30 days. You're only going to have a month left with your parents, a month. Like when I try to put things in perspective like that to realize like how valuable time is. So if anybody listens to that is the number one thing, like don't waste any time. And if you can't figure out what to do, go out and help somebody. Go find a charity you can go to, spend your time doing that. And it doesn't mean not resting or taking care of yourself. It just means what can I do to maximize my time to the best, whether it's helping myself, getting healthier, educating somebody, or giving back. Just really valuing time. That's probably the number one. I'll probably give you 100, but that one to me is the number one.
That's fantastic. I couldn't agree any more with that. I've had a lot of life lessons that have kind of taught me that from losing family members at really early ages to, just a lot of random other events. And so totally agree with that. So thank you so much for your time today. If anybody wants to get involved in any of your programs or reach out to you personally, where can they go to find you?
VIPignitelive.com. That's simple. So you can learn all about us. Click on the link. Jump on. All our calls are always live. There's nothing pre-recorded. So whenever you come on, we'll be there. We're live. So VIP Ignite Live. It's in the name.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it again.
All right. Thank you. It was great. It was great and honor to be on this call. I really enjoyed it a lot, and I'm so honored to be here today.